let's figure out how we can work in that direction. Also, I like to note that I do record these, and I'm going to put this on YouTube. So if you're like, what did he say about that thing at about this time? I'm going to put this on YouTube in a day or so you'll see it there as well. The last one's on YouTube too. All right, so I talked about the goal is peace of mind. We're working towards a business that feels lighter. And the reason for that is that when the business feels lighter, we are in a position where we can work on it instead of in it. It gives us the chance to take a deep breath and think about ways to improve the business instead of just getting stuck with all the busy daily stuff that we get tasked with. I'm sure you guys know what I mean there. And so I like to think of this as building a house. That's why I keep using this house analogy here. So I came up with this idea of stacking bricks. We talk about back in Q1, it was like March-ish, we talked about brand development, and then we talked some about digital marketing, and then in August we talked about web design. All these components are coming together, and what I'm excited about for today is we're not going to get technical. Instead, we're kind of going to glue some of these pieces together. So stacking bricks. The material we cover today is going to be the glue piece that ties a lot of these efforts together. Okay. So today we're going to talk about getting our stuff together. A little bit of context. I don't think we've had the chance to meet yet, so I'm excited to be here and meet you, Ed. Yeah. My name's Kevin Camus. I started a marketing agency over in Grand Rapids. We're a full-service agency, so we do web design, CRM, photo, video content, social media, Facebook ads. That's our bread and butter. I started the business in 2020. Since then, I've kind of fallen into the role of I really enjoy getting to know people's businesses and helping them build an even better version of their business. My ideal client is somebody who loves their business and just needs help getting organized and getting the right systems in place. So anyways, I love this idea that business is an infinite game. I think that it's really interesting that nobody wins. Like if you think about it, like nobody's won the game of business ever, so therefore don't go out and try and win. Like on Sundays, like the Lions either win or lose. Like that's a finite game. We can all like agree on who won and lost. But with business, nobody's the winner. So don't set out to try and do that. Instead, we need to look at the game differently. We basically, I like this idea that we earn the privilege to keep playing. And so what we're going to talk about today with getting organized makes it essentially a little bit easier and more enjoyable to stay in the game. I did not come up with this idea. I stole it from this book right here. It's called Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. You'll notice in the notes there's a bunch of resources that I mentioned. This one I forgot to link, I can tell. I can go back and fix that. But I linked out to some helpful videos and books too. So a few things for you there. All right. So I talked about the 4 areas that we're going to master. It's going to be CRM, scheduling, communication, and project management. Okay? CRM, for anybody that doesn't know, I'm going to keep using this acronym, so I'm going to explain it one time. Customer Relationship Management. It is essentially the database and the place where we keep track of all of our customers' names, emails, phone numbers, inquiries, leads. It's like how we kind of think of it as like the nerve center. Like the central brain is the CRM. And we're going to talk about that one first. The second piece is scheduling. We live in a world where we meet with each other. We get asked to have meetings, whether it's phone calls, in-person meetings, Zoom calls. It's never ending. And I've got a few really good tips to use some modern software that is going to make this so much easier. So you have to, basically the long story short is you can avoid the, are you available Thursday at 2 o'clock? No, I'm not available then. What about Monday? No, I'm not available then. Like we've all been stuck on those. Got some cool tips for you how we can help that. Communication, at this point in time, AI has not replaced us yet, so we still communicate with each other. Got a few cool tips and tricks for ways that we can better communicate with our team members as well as with our customers. So I got some tips on communication. And finally, project management, tips and tricks for the ways that we can keep track of literally the hundreds of tasks that need to get done by a certain due date by somebody. Some of you may resort to sticky notes on the wall. Nothing totally wrong with that, but I've got a few more, let's call them organized ways of going about and tackling your projects, especially with your team. A lot of what I think about is, I steal it from one of my favorite authors, YouTuber. His name's Diego Forte, and he came up with this concept of building a second brain, and it's really stuck with me. And it's this idea that essentially our brains are really good at coming up with new ideas. Like as business owners and entrepreneurs, we are no shortage of ideas. We're always coming up with things. I think where we as humans are the weakest is this idea of like cataloging it, storing the information, remembering things. And lucky for us, people who came before us used their brains and invented computers and software. So we actually don't need to do that skill. And so what I love is this idea of like, everything's written down, everything has a place, and essentially we're freeing up the bandwidth in our brain so that it can come up with new ideas. You know, to be honest, I think I have 3 meetings after this. I don't know what they are, but my calendar does. Like, therefore I can be totally present right here. I'm not worried about it because it's already written down. And so I love this idea of building a second brain. So we're gonna work to do that today. All right, QR code, last chance, grab the notes. Anyways, 4 areas: CRM, scheduling, communication, project management. We are going to start with CRM because it is, I talked about stacking bricks, it's kind of like one of the base layers. Okay, CRM, customer relationship management, nerve center. The goal that we're working towards here is this idea that we're capturing and organizing every relationship in one place. So all of your names, phone numbers, leads, deals, that's what's going to take place in a CRM. I'm a little bit curious as we get into this. In each of your businesses, can you just like raise your hand if you like actually have a CRM and are actively using it? 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. So kind of like 50-50-ish. Okay, cool. For those of you that are using it, I'm basically going to be showing you my favorite ways to use it, some things that have worked well for me, and you might be able to implement it for yourself. If you're not currently using a platform, this is going to be a good like introduction of what you could look for when you pick a platform. When I talk about CRMs, the first question that everyone always asks is, what software do you use? People love to talk about that, so I will just address that real quick. At LaunchKit, we do work with 2 platforms. One's called Go High Level, the other is called HubSpot. They are both CRM platforms. People then ask, well, that's great, which one's for me? My like general answer is Go High Level works best for businesses that are doing under $1 million a year in sales, and HubSpot works for businesses that are doing more than $1 million a year in sales. The reason for that is honestly just the price tag of each of them. Go High Level is like very cheap, like a few $100s. HubSpot is $1,500 a month. It's pretty expensive, but it's pretty solid. The way that I'll explain it to people is that the Go High Level is like a Honda Civic, and HubSpot is like a Porsche 911. Got it? Point made. They both have 4 wheels. They both get you from A to B. Both, honestly, great cars. One's a little flashier. One has 10x the price tag. Anyways, okay. That's all we're going to talk about software. Okay. The good news is what I'm about to explain, everything CRM related, believe it or not, both of the platforms can do, as well as industry specific ones. I wanted to mention this specifically because sometimes when we work with clients, they'll use not either of those 2. They'll use one that's specific to their industry, and I've seen that work well too. I wrote down drip jobs. A lot of our clients are in like the construction space. Platform works great. So if you found one that's a little more specific to you, odds are it's going to be great. I'm going to give you a few things to look for in there. Okay. So like I said, Honda Civic, Porsche, they both have 4 wheels. They work great. They get you from A to B. One has more price tag. All right. The core pieces. The 3 components for your CRM that we need to essentially nail down here is going to be your contacts, your companies, and your deals. A lot of times these are called objects in the platforms, and essentially it's 3 different lists is how I look at it. I like to start with contacts: names, phone numbers, emails. Like, we're just keeping track of people and essentially where they are at in our business. Like, is this a new lead that we have not yet done business with? Maybe they filled out a form on our website. Or is this somebody that we talked to but we didn't land the deal that maybe we should reach back out to in 6 months? Is this an active customer? Or is this maybe somebody that bought from us once but hasn't bought from us again? And maybe we should reach back out to them. We simply need a way to keep track of all these people. And what the CRM is going to allow you to do is build these different lists. Think like spreadsheet that you can just sort. Got it? If you're in a B2B space, along with your contacts, You also need to keep track of companies. So I'll use LaunchKit as an example. So LaunchKit theoretically does businesses with other companies, right? We're a marketing agency, but at that company is multiple people. So what we're doing is we have multiple contacts, and then we have a company, and the people are associated with the company. It's just, again, a way of classifying people and keeping track if you're a B2B business. If you are, in the pet grooming space, you probably don't work with as many businesses. You're probably fine with just contacts. The third component there is deals. Okay, so deals, think like sales pipeline. Think like people like come into the pipeline, you work them through your sales process, and then they exit as either a customer or not a customer, ideally a customer. The sales pipeline is how we can map out our sales stages so that we can track deals as they move through the pipeline. The key here, honestly, is remembering when to follow up. It is like, I still just blow my own mind of like when I actually remember to follow up with people. They're like, oh yeah, just saw your video on LinkedIn, meant to reach out to you. Boom, money in the bank. Like, it's so easy, but like Kevin's brain would never remember to do this. I need my sales pipeline to help me keep track of this. I think why this works so well is the CRM is going to tell you when you last had communication with said person. And so it's like, if I look at it and it's like, okay, the last communication was 2 weeks ago, that tells me, okay, that person, everybody has their own rules of when they should follow up, but it's telling me, hey, maybe that person's ready for a reach out. But I don't need to follow up with the guy I emailed yesterday. So core pieces, contacts, companies, deals. Those are the objects that we want to set up. One of my favorite things of when you get these in order, I've talked about how we can remember to reach out to people. We can do further email marketing here. People a lot of times ask, like, is email marketing still effective? Like, do I really need to be doing this? Like, I get so much junk mail. My answer is yes. If it wasn't effective, all these companies would not be doing it and spending resources on it. A lot of these big companies are very smart. They have very smart people working for them. They're only going to do it if the data shows that it's still working. So it's still going to work on our small business level as well. I think that bad email marketing is the problem. If you were to just email your contact list every day and say, hey, we exist by our stuff, they're going to get sick of that and they're just going to unsubscribe. So when I do email marketing, I always ask myself, is this either entertaining or educational? It's got to fit in one of those two boxes. And if you can nail that entertaining or educational, let's call it like checklist, then people will essentially stay on your email list because they're getting value from it. They're not just getting a sales pitch each time. So the reason that I'm looping this in with CRM is that because once your contacts are loaded in, email marketing honestly becomes so easy because I said you can segment those contacts into lists based on their life cycle stage, purchase behavior stage. Once you get the contacts nailed, email marketing gets really easy. Then from there, your mind can focus on the analytics. So when I'm doing email marketing, the two numbers that I'm looking at is open rate and click-through rate. So naturally, the number of emails that I send is just going up and to the right because I'm continuing to meet new people. New people get added to our list. It's natural that one's going to go up. So what I'm really looking at is the quality of my email, and that's measured in open rate and click rate. Open rate is simply measuring how good are my subject lines. Is it enticing people to actually open the email? And then my click-through rate is telling me if the information in the email resonated with the people viewing it. And so those are the two numbers. Typically when you look at email analytics, there's way too many numbers on the screen. I delete all the numbers and I just keep those two, and that's my ones that I focus on. Entertaining, educational. Okay, so once we start getting the contacts, companies, and deals in order, what's going to happen is that we're going to basically stop storing all these leads in our head, and we're going to get it on paper. At LaunchKit, I always say, like, if it's not written down, it honestly doesn't exist in my opinion. So this is us getting it written down. You're going to know where every deal is at. You're going to know when it's time to follow up. You're going to know who needs a message from you. It also leads to a really clean handoff so that once something goes from, let's call it closed won, like you won the deal, that's when you're going to move it to your project management software, which we're going to touch on in step 4. I've talked about the deals concept quite a bit and the sales pipeline. I wanted to map out just like a super simple pipeline. If you're starting from nothing or you're just curious, like how could I simplify this? Typically when we set these up for clients, I'll start with something super basic like this. So for example, somebody fills out a form on your website, it'll create a new deal and essentially put it in the new inquiry bucket. This is telling you, hey, these are people you need to reach out to. They indicated that they wanted to do business with you. We need to follow up with them. Once you make contact, maybe you schedule some sort of consultation, sales call, whatever it might be. That would be, we call it discovery call. Then keep track of who you've sent proposals to. If it's somebody you did want to do business with and you sent them either, maybe it's a quote, proposal, contract, whatever it might be, move them into that bucket. Maybe you negotiate, maybe you have some sort of like conversation back and forth to see if they are going to become a customer or not. And then we either won or lost. Won or lost is great data to look at. You know, your customers that you won, you know, it can be look at, okay, what was the source? Where did they come from? How do we get connected with them? That's a great thing to put on a dashboard, is understanding what marketing efforts led to actual customers. And then your lost deals is a great gold mine for when things are a little bit slow. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll go to my lost deals and I'll filter it down and look at people that I actually wanted to do business with, but we just didn't land the deal. And it's a great opportunity to re-engage and follow up with them. You know, you might say something along the lines of, hey, you know, it's been about 6 months since we talked about making improvements to your website. Did you end up going with somebody? Is that project something you activated? You know, if not, and you're willing to reconsider it, I'd love to re-spark that conversation. Maybe even say, hey, I learned, you know, these 3 things and I thought they might be effective to you. We can do that when we filter all our information here.
I call that my graveyard.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I literally have a folder called graveyard.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you go back to it?
No, not right now.
Those are the really.
If you,
Yeah,
but
those are like, they're dead. They're dead, but like I want to keep that information.
Yeah.
Just to see like the progression over the years though too.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing for like history of your business to be
Certainly.
like, oh my God, I can't believe I only charged that amount of money when I first started. Like,
yeah,
So,
I love that.
yeah,
And you wouldn't have that if you didn't have a place to keep all that.
exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
awesome. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I like the keyword too, graveyard. That's a good one. All right, so I'm a big checklist guy. So I made a little checklist here of if I was starting from scratch, these are essentially the order in which I would build this out. I'd get our contacts dialed in. I'd get custom fields set up for name, email, phone number, lifecycle stage. And then I would do the company's object if we're in a B2B space. If we're not, I just skip that one. And then I'm going to link every contact to a company. And maybe we even have multiple contacts per company. And then third, I'm going to do the deals pipeline. So I'm going to start with the fairly basic stages, like I said, inquiry, discovery, proposal, negotiation, and then either won or lost. And then if I wanted to take it one step further, the first automation that I would build, this one works wonders for me, is that when somebody fills out a form on the website, it's going to create a deal, and then it's going to send them an email and say, hey, we got your message, thanks for reaching out. Here is a link to schedule a call. Works like a charm. So easy. Then we're going to segment the email list by lifecycle stage. So maybe I want to only email people that are not currently a customer of ours. We could easily sort that into a list and then email them accordingly. I send out emails once a week. I do it on Tuesdays. I segment it based on whatever I want to talk about that week. Works really well for us. Build the email list, stay in contact with them. Works like a charm. All right. I included 2 helpful videos in here. These are YouTube videos that I made recently that I think could be helpful. They're somewhat adjacent to this topic. Thought they could be helpful. All right. This automation that I got a little excited about here, this is going to tie into what we're talking about next. It's going to help with scheduling. So that is some initial thoughts I have on what I'm thinking about currently as it relates to CRM. Next, we're going to talk about scheduling. But before I do that, is there any additional questions that I could answer for anybody related to CRM? Cool. Maybe one? Good? Cool. All right. We're going to talk about scheduling next. So scheduling is something that we, at this point in time, will continue to have to deal with. So I wanted to share some tips I have learned over the years that have really helped with protecting and organizing my time. I'm really a big nerd on this idea of protecting your time. I feel as if we just open ourselves up to the world, we're just going to get pulled in so many directions, and we're going to find ourselves with the ever-ending to-do list and not enough time to do it. And I think I want to avoid that so much because I believe it takes the joy out of what we do. We need to protect that time. So the goal here is we're going to try and automate scheduling, and we're going to design a calendar that allows us to support our focus and our freedom. I think that's one of the best things about being a part of a small business is we get the chance to do this. Here's how I capitalize on that. So, like I said, as you know, we get pulled in a lot of different directions. We wear a lot of different hats. The simple move that I've found to help combat this is running an effective calendar. And unlike a lot of executives in corporate America, we actually don't need to hire a full-time secretary or assistant to do this. We're basically going to use 2 tools that are going to help do this for us, or at least do the heavy lifting. We're either going to use your CRM or a software called Calendly to basically be our secretary. Now, before we get into this one, I'm curious, how many people in here are currently using some sort of either meeting scheduler, Calendly, or something similar to schedule appointments?
Just the one on my phone.
What's the one on
I
your...
don't schedule, never mind.
Okay.
That's my reminders.
Okay, interesting. All right, cool. I'm excited to hear what people think about this one after we talk about this. Okay, so here's the concept. Calendly, I linked it in here, so you can just click on it and they'll tell you all about it. But basically, think software where I send you a link, you view a calendar, you see when I'm available, you get to pick a time that works well for you. You completely skip the whole back and forth of when you're available. Amazing. Okay. So like I said, someone clicks the link, they see a calendar that only shows times you're available. The workflow becomes simple. When we want to get together to have coffee, I just send you the link. You pick a time. It's on both of our calendars. You actually even get a reminder email the day before. Money. Okay. So here's the concept. So now it's like, okay, well, how the hell are we going to get there? All right, here's where we're going to go with this. So the first thing I like to address is this idea of time blocking. So when we look at an empty calendar for the week, something that's worked really well for me is putting time blocks on the calendar. I've seen a lot of different versions of this. Some people have it down to the minute of the day and all these little blocks. I think that's too constricted. I would feel like I'm not running my own life. Instead, what I found works really well is basically just blocking out time for deep work. To tell it to you directly, I put a block Tuesday mornings from 9 a.m. until lunch blocked on my calendar. And then Thursday mornings as well. I create content on Thursday mornings, so that time is blocked as well. So what I'm doing is I'm basically taking control of my calendar and ensuring that I definitely have time for myself. I don't take meetings during that time. It's blocked off. Building on this, in order to make this whole thing work, we do need to put everything on the calendar. That's kind of the big asterisk disclaimer here, is that in order for what I'm about to explain, in order for it to work, you need to have everything on your calendar. So if I have a dentist appointment at 2 o'clock on a Thursday, I do need that on the calendar. Otherwise, things will get scheduled over it. Okay? So we just need to put everything on the calendar, block out time for deep work, put your personal appointments on there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set up the scheduling software to only offer meeting slots in the available times. Okay? And so let's explain how we do this. All right. I'm going to start with a kind of a real world example here. So you can see the end, and then we're going to back it up how to get here. Okay, so someone fills out a form on your website saying they want to talk with you. I kind of already explained this one. They fill out the form. I get the inquiry. The system's going to email them and say, hey, got your form inquiry. We're excited to talk with you. Here's a link to my calendar. They click the link. They see times you're available. They pick a time that works well for them. It goes on both of your calendars, and you both get email confirmations. Okay, so that's what we're working towards. There's no manual entry. There's no chasing, trying to figure out a time. This is when it really starts to feel like the business is running on autopilot. A lot of times I will literally be in a meeting and I turn off all my notifications when I'm in meetings so that I can be laser focused. I'll get out of the meeting, I'll turn that setting off, and I'll see that somebody filled out the form and they scheduled a call, all while I was in this meeting. And I just think that's the coolest feeling ever. And it gets me excited to share this with you. So, okay, here's essentially how we set this up. So we need to use a digital calendar. Usually I'm seeing people either use Google Calendar, or if you use Microsoft Outlook. My girlfriend still has a paper calendar on her refrigerator at home. I think it's great. It's like tactile, it's fun. She like crosses it off every day. We both still have Google Calendars because of this functionality. So Google Calendar or Microsoft Outlook works really well, depending on if you're a Google person or a Microsoft person. Both are going to allow you to do the same. So then what we're going to do is we're basically going to connect said calendar with the scheduling tool. I mentioned that Calendly can do this, or the CRM can do this. HubSpot has all this functionality. Go High Level has this functionality. If you're not using either of those, that's when Calendly can come into play. Okay, so when you connect Calendly with your calendar, now this is where you can essentially create these, I'm going to call them events, on Calendly that have different, let's call them settings. Basic settings would be like a 30-minute meeting, an hour meeting, a 25-minute meeting. Maybe it's a Google Meet call or a Zoom call. Maybe you have a version that's an in-person meeting. Maybe one of them is a phone call. You're just setting all these different meeting types so that when somebody says, hey, I want to grab a coffee, I've got a link for that. Versus if somebody wants to do a sales call, maybe that's an hour-long Google Meet call. It's just a different type of meeting. So you're simply setting up how long it is, where it's going to take place, and when you want to be available. So maybe I only want to be available for coffee on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. You can set that parameter, and then it'll only show those options to the person booking. Then when they're filling it out, you can ask them custom questions. So like, for example, whenever somebody fills out a form to do a sales call, I always ask them, which of our services are you interested in learning about? So that I know, or do they want to talk about websites, or do they want to talk about social media? It helps me be prepped going into the call, so I never have to remember to ask the question because the form automatically asks them that. Makes me feel really prepared going into the conversations. Ooh, my other favorite one, I didn't write it down on here, but on the sales call form, I recently, this year at least, put in the age-old question, how did you hear about LaunchKit? And I made it required. So in order to book a call, somebody has to put in how they heard about us. I've never had any complaints about it, and every single inquiry, I know exactly how they heard about us. And I actually chose to keep it as an open text box and not a drop-down, because I'm always interested to see what they type, because a lot of times they give me a little context that's like really helpful that wouldn't come through in a drop-down. Sometimes they'll say like, oh, I saw this specific LinkedIn post, or I met you at this specific event. So having that open-endedness is really helpful to see where they're coming from. So every meeting, I know how they heard about us, and I know what they're interested in talking about. I can feel super prepared, and I never have to remember it. My brain's free to think about other things. Okay. I made 2 YouTube videos on this too. I linked them down here. They're each like 15 minutes. They're helpful. Okay. I recognize that this is it's kind of like a weird concept to wrap your head around, especially if nobody's using it. So does anybody have any like questions about like how this works or how they could potentially use it, or if it's for them? Does anybody feel like they might give this a shot? Okay. Have you? Okay. You said working on it as in like you've tried and it didn't work?
Yeah, I have all my information. I have to pick out which CRM program I want to use
Cool.
specifically. So put some feelers out to see what people think about
Sweet.
what works best for real estate.
Yeah.
So.
There's a lot for real estate. There's a lot of industry ones or the generic ones. Cool. Sweet. I think that could be really helpful for like showings. Right? Are you a buyer or seller agent?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
I don't know about that.
all right, that's
I don't
fair.
know. I gotta start slowly.
Yeah.
Taking a while.
Yeah. My thought was like, let's say I had found a house that I wanted to go look at, and we need to find a time that we're both available. If you just sent me a link to your calendar, and I could just pick a time. Could work well. Or not.
It's hard because you're open all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
So
I
maybe
understand.
you make the available time
Can't be available, so yeah.
more open.
But sometimes you will adjust your schedule for that too. So
Yeah.
it just depends.
I think we had a question over here.
I was just saying, do you have any tips for someone that runs 2 businesses with 2 separate emails that
Yeah.
needs to keep the calendar in one? Because I use my Google Calendar
Okay.
next to both my emails.
Yep.
But if the I want the calendar appointments to read that, I'm busy with this email.
Yep.
And
So I know I can speak on Calendly specifically. When you're setting up, let's call it your availability, it asks the question of what calendar do you want to scan for conflicts?
okay.
That's it's its way of saying, like, where should I look to see if you're available or not? I have that too. So I have my work calendar connected and my personal one, so that if I'm out of office on PTO, if I have a dentist appointment, if I have a meeting, it's going to pull from my personal and my work calendar to scan that availability. It's a good idea.
I've used it like with scheduling appointments with other people who
Yeah.
have it, and it's great.
Cool.
Like you talked about, like that back and forth. It's just like I wanted to hide when that happens.
So draining. It like takes the fun out of
Yeah,
even
it's
having
like,
the conversation.
Oh God, but like sending the link, oh yeah, for sure. And then they put it in their like block in their email, like schedule an appointment with me.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really nice.
It's usually a good way to get exposed to it is be on the user side of it and be like,
Yeah.
wow, that was freaking great.
Yeah.
So, all right, neat. If anybody gets stuck with it, I'm a nerd for this stuff, so feel free to ask as you get into it. I'd love to help you out. All right, we talked about CRM. We talked about calendars. The next thing I want to talk about is communication. It's not rocket science. We all do it every day. I want to talk a little bit about how we could maybe do it just a little bit better. So my beef with communication is that sometimes it feels like you just do a whole lot of talking in circles and not actually going forward. And so what I want to try to help with is communication that is ultimately going to move the work forward instead of just talking about doing a bunch of work. So to pull this off, I listed out, there's 3, let's call them channels for communication that we use at LaunchKit that have worked really well for us, and I wanted to share those 3 with you guys today. I recognize that I called it your specific communication recipe. It's going to be unique to your own business because we all have different operations that work with different customers, different timelines of when we need to respond. So take this with a grain of salt. Basic concepts here. We're going to need to mold this to each individual business. So I'm going to share with you guys the 3 tools. The 3 tools that we use are ClickUp, Quo, and Google Chat. Okay? ClickUp is a project management software. We're going to talk about it in our 4th section. It's all about project management, but it ties in here, so I want to mention ClickUp now. So we use ClickUp for what I call task-related work. This is my solution to not going round and round. This is my solution to be very action-oriented in the way we talk to each other. So I'm talking about, like, instead of just saying what we need to do, we're actually creating tasks and putting due dates and assignees on these things. It's very action-oriented talk. If I need somebody to do something, I'm messaging them on ClickUp. Number 2 is Quo. It's simply a work phone that you can have on your existing device. It's an app. It's awesome. I have the app on both my MacBook, my iPad, my iPhone. If you have a PC, it works on your PC too. Somebody calls me, it's going to ring on my Apple Watch. It's just the best work phone software that I've ever seen. And so our team members, we don't have to carry around 2 phones. We just use one phone. It works like a charm. The 3rd is Google Chat. This one we've had in play for a long time, and it's basically like direct messaging with your teammates. We use it for, I call it non-task related talk. So for example, today was one of my team members' birthdays in the office, and the last 2 days we were planning what we wanted to get Mackenzie for her birthday, and some of my team members messaged in Google Chat that one of them was going to get a nothing bundt cake for Mackenzie, and another one was going to go get some of her favorite drinks. That took place in Google Chat. It wasn't related to any of the actual projects that we're doing at LaunchKit, so we used Google Chat for that. I'm going to explain a little bit more about how we know when to use each function. All right. ClickUp, Quo, Google Chat. When to talk where. So ClickUp, like I said, it's the full project management tool. So when it comes to communication, think of this like Slack. If any of you guys ever use Slack, think like channels with people in it. It's organizing conversations into threads. I like to default to using ClickUp because it's not gonna pull somebody's attention away from what they're working on. It's not gonna, like, if somebody messages me on ClickUp, it's not going to my watch. I'm not even gonna see it on my phone. I like to encourage this type of communication for things that are not urgent. I always ask myself, like, is this urgent? Do I really need this from this person right now? Or can I just message it and not pull their attention away? I think it's extremely sort of taxing when we just pull each other's attention all day. And so a lot of times we like to message on ClickUp because we're not going to interrupt each other. And I think that's really important, especially in creative work or any deep work where you don't want to break that stream of flow. Quo, the work phone number software. Like I said, each team member has a work phone number. This has been really helpful for my teammates to not feel like they had to use their personal phone numbers for communication and like give that to customers. It's so interesting, you know, the messages come through to the same phone, but just having that like a little bit of a barrier between personal communication and work communication. It's totally an emotional thing. I can't, you know, tell you the logic behind it, but when somebody calls me on my work phone, I'm almost like excited to see their name pop up and answer it. If they call my personal phone, it's like, why are they calling me? It's an interesting psychological thing, and I've noticed that having this work phone number in place has really helped with that communication. It's like the saying, what is it, like, fences make good neighbors? I feel like that's like that same concept here. So each team member has a phone number. We have it on all of our devices. Separates work and personal communication. I talked about Google Chat. I guess the best way to say it's time-sensitive messages. So if I do need you and I need you now, I'll send you it on Google Chat because I know it's going to ping you and it's going to pull your attention. I just try and be mindful of when I choose to send that because if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So I try to be very mindful about when we pull that trigger. ClickUp's the default for work-related work. Quo is how we talk with customers, and if I need to like call a team member, we call each other on Quo. And then Google Chat is for time-sensitive message. It also has better group chat functionality. That's how we know when to use each line of communication. I made 2 videos on this. One's just talking about general apps that I use, and one is talking just more about some more organization tips. ClickUp, Quo, Google Chat. Anybody have any questions about communication channels? It's kind of a nerdy one, but makes a big difference because we talk to each other a lot every day. Cool. Okay, our fourth and final topic today is about project management. I saved this one for last because I get really excited about it. I think this is a big differentiator between being organized in your business and feeling very chaotic about who's doing what and doing it when. Project management is going to be the solution to a lot of these feelings. So I describe project management as where everything actually gets done. So we're going to move from, instead of just talking about getting shit done, this is where we actually get shit done. I like to think of this as a shared to-do list combined with a spreadsheet with like superpowers, okay? So if you've never really worked with one of these tools, just kind of picture a spreadsheet, but imagine the columns being much more beefed up, okay? Think of it this way. Think you have a workspace. This is like your company name. And then inside the workspace, maybe you have your different departments. So maybe there's like accounting, maybe it's like marketing, maybe it's operations. And I get it, for small businesses, you probably do all of these things. So it's more so just helping you keep track of things. Like I said, keeping that house organized. We need to organize the work in a way that mirrors how the business thinks. There's no like one example of this. It's what works well for you. All right, the tool that we use for this is ClickUp. Also, this interface that you're seeing here is ClickUp as well. It's what we're using for everything. I'm curious, I'm gonna ask the question again. Anybody using project management software like this currently? No, I'm seeing a lot of no's. Interesting. You guys don't use this?
I'm trying.
Okay. Why didn't it stick?
I don't know. I just can't get it to grasp in my mind.
Yeah. What do you remember? What tools you tried to use?
I've tried like Asana.
Yeah.
Trello.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Okay.
We've tried a couple different things.
Okay.
It's a me thing.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, I get it. It can be it's overwhelming in the beginning.
Setting
I think
it up,
like,
I think is what gets me.
Yeah.
If I get it set up and good to go, then I think I'd use it. But
yeah.
it's the
And then trying to get, if you're working with any team members, trying to get them to
Yeah.
use it too. I wanted to give you guys the 4 ways that we're using ClickUp currently that are not specific to what we do. And these things have worked wonders, so I wanted to explain each of these for you guys. The first one is a shared to-do list. This is, think a spreadsheet, think a to-do list, but the whole team can access it. So whenever we need somebody to get something done, instead of me just rifling off an email saying I need you to do this, we'll literally just go in here, make a task, explain what it is we need to get done, pick a due date of when we need it by, and assign it to somebody. And it allows us to, like I said, go from talking about doing things to actually doing things. It allows us to get a lot done with this shared to-do list. This word right here is something that we all have to deal with, and we have to do it every year. It's taxes. And so I came up with a good way that we're actually able to use our project management software for this. I made a list that outlines every tax that I have to pay in a year. Good news about taxes, they don't really change. So I just listed out all of them that we have to pay, and then I filled out where you go to pay the taxes, because I feel like there's so many different websites and it's very confusing. So I just listed it all out, put the amount that I need to pay, I put the due date, and I put like what type of tax it is, and I built that list one time, and each year I just duplicate the list. I make myself a fresh copy and just reset it. And then that year, I already have it all mapped out of exactly what I need to do. So I don't have any fear come tax season. Like, oh, did I pay that? I can literally just go back and see if I paid it or not. It's not exciting at all, not glamorous, but man, does it work well. The third one that I wrote down is knowledge base. This is something that I've been spending more time doing. Right now I've got 5 full-time team members. And so what I've learned is that if I just keep things up here, that does them no good. Like, they can't read my mind. I have to get things out of my head onto paper, and this knowledge base is essentially my way of doing that. So again, picture the spreadsheet. Each basically row in the spreadsheet is becoming a standard operating procedure. It's just me writing notes on how we do this thing, what is this thing. If you have questions about this thing, reach out to this person. It's just me getting everything out of my head onto paper. And then the fourth one is paid time off. So we needed a resource, a way to keep track of PTO, of how many days people have used or requested off. So again, picture the spreadsheet. Each row is a request for PTO. There's a column to say who's the person taking PTO, who's the person that needs to approve the PTO, when does it begin, when does it end, how many days are you taking. Again, it's think spreadsheet just on PowerUp. We're using that for our PTO, and it works absolute wonders. I'm gonna give you guys just I'm gonna open up another tab here. I'm gonna show you, I recognize this might sound like the Matrix at this point. So I'm just gonna hop in here and kind of briefly show you each of these. So remember, I keep listing off. This is basically all I'm talking about. So this is our shared to-do list. All we're doing is listing out these rows. So we need to check in with our marketing clients to lock in their objectives for 2026. My team member, Austin, is who's responsible for that, and he's gonna do it by November 19th. If you click on any of these, it's gonna open it up, and it gives us a space to write notes on this specific task so that Austin needs to know. It gives Austin the information he needs to know to do his job effectively. Shared to-do list. Pretty simple, very powerful.
So when Austin does it, he clicks it off, and does it automatically go away, or does it show you that Austin did it?
Typically what we found best is he can either click this little thing and just hit complete, or he can message me and say, hey, got this done, here's a link to it or whatever. And then so you're seeing, this is nice, there's only 5 things. It's easy on the eyes. I can simply switch the view and view all the things that we've completed. So if I need to go back and be like, remember when you did that thing in June? I can go back and look at the stuff that we completed as well as all the communication that went with those tasks. Shared to-do list. Not glamorous, works really well.
And are you able to duplicate, I know I always say the newsletter is the first Friday of the month.
Yeah.
So you're able to just duplicate that?
For content creation, we use that as well. I didn't list that one out in here, but I'd love to briefly show you it. So we have a specific list for it. And think, here's the list. And basically, if I click on this, you should be able to see, think of like a pipeline. Can we see this? You're able to, different statuses. So basically what happens is when we first have an idea, it's up here, and then it moves through, let's use your newsletter example. So maybe you need to go out and like gather some materials for it. And then maybe you need to make a little video for it. Maybe the video isn't editing, maybe it was in caption writing, maybe you need somebody to sign off on it. We're just moving it through these statuses. Helps us keep track of things. So everything you're seeing is essentially our content funnel of how stuff moves through the pipeline. So these are the videos that we're currently working on. I'm a pretty visual person, so I like to look at this on a calendar. So when you talk about the first Friday of each month, this is usually what we'll look at to map out like, okay, today we're posting a video about Daniel eating Jimmy John's. And next week we're talking about editing. We're doing a case study on our work with Community Food Club. You can see what's coming down the pipeline. So if you worked on the email with anybody, it's great to have everybody on the same page about first Friday of the month. There's your email.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, we use this with our clients. It's game changer. What's up?
So, looking at that calendar, when you have that, do you have a place that you could add